a conversation about Black families. We're going to get settled in, and we'll do a formal introduction. But Let's Talks happen every other month virtually at Community Foundation. You're always welcome to dip in and learn more about important topics, issues, concerns, what's happening in our community, what's going really well, what the challenges are, and how we can together work to build a community that thrives for everyone. So we're very happy that you're with us today. We're going to be an hour long today. This is recorded, and this will be on our website along with all the other Let's Talks. And I think our next Let's Talk will be happening in September, and that will be the Indigenous Heritage with Traditional Center for Indigenous Knowledge and Healing. So that's September 10th. All that information is on our website. So we're going to let people get settled in here. And Gloria, when you give me the high sign, we'll start our program. We're very excited that you're with us today.
Wonderful.
Hopefully you're someplace cool. I'm sitting on top of an air conditioner right now.
Literally on top of it.
Because people know me, know this is not George's favorite weather at all.
Yes, that is true. I see some familiar faces. Hi, Leon.
Nick is here from the
Annie.
Park Foundation. That's great. John Eversley Bradwell from Ithaca College. Tina Nielsen from New Roots. This is great.
Hi, Jim. I see Jim Grant. Hi,
Yes.
Jim.
Hello, hello.
Start in like maybe another minute or so. I'm waiting for Harmony, one of our guests, log on.
That's strange. There's a square here with my name on it that's not me, so I don't know what that means.
And there is, I believe Harmony has joined.
Great.
Harmony, you there? All right. Well, while she's getting settled in, we'll just start.
Let's start. So again, welcome to Community Foundation's Let's Talk for the month of July. July is Black Family Month, and we have a great group of people here, including Siobhan Bunch from Southside Community Center, Leslie McQueen Claiborne from GIAC, and Ira McKinley and Harmony Malone to help us have a conversation about the particular strengths, resilience, and unity of Black families. This is a very important conversation for us to have. Community Foundation is pleased to provide these Let's Talks on an every other month basis. As you have questions, comments, you can put them in the question box. This will be recorded and put on our website at cftompkins.org. The Let's Talk program is produced by Gloria Kwaku, who is our Chief Community Engagement, Equity, and Grants Officer. So we'll take it away, Gloria. Thank you for putting this all together for us today.
Thank you. Thank you, George. I'm so excited. Welcome to our Let's Talk program, where today we're going to come together to celebrate the beauty, resilience, and significance of the Black family. My name is Gloria Kwaku, and it's my honor to guide you through this special program as we recognize and honor the powerful role of Black families and how that plays out in our community. This observance, it was established in 2006. I had no idea that this was even a holiday up until like last year, to highlight the unique contributions, achievements, and experiences of Black families. So happy National Black Family Month. So first, please share with us your name and where you're joining us from, or if it's an organization, maybe share what you'd like to gain from this presentation, or you can also post questions for our speakers in the chat. But first, I want to read a disclaimer. I need to say that these ideas and opinions are my own and not that of the Community Foundation. It's important to clarify that my intention is not to exclude or discriminate against any race or ethnicity. My focus on celebrating the Black family is to highlight and honor their unique contributions, experiences, and resilience. This celebration is intended to promote understanding, unity, and appreciation for the diverse tapestry that makes up our community. All right, so I just needed to get that out. So let's move on. So the Black family has long been a pillar of strength, culture, and communities. Through generations, Black families have navigated and overcome immense challenges, as we all know, from trials of slavery and segregation to the ongoing struggles that we face today against systemic racism and inequities. Despite their adversities, the Black family has remained a source of unwavering support, love, and empowerment. The Black family is the bedrock of our culture, preserving traditions, values, and stories that shape our identity and heritage. It is within the family that we learn the importance of community, resilience, and pride in our history. This has shaped me into who I am today. It's not a Black History program. Again, this is an opportunity to talk about what makes the Black family special. The bonds within Black families extend beyond bloodlines, as Siobhan was telling us earlier before you all logged on, encompassing a broader sense of community and solidarity. This extended family network provides crucial support, encouragement, and a sense of belonging, fostering unity and collective progress. Now, how many of you had thousands of aunties and uncles growing up, and only 2 of them were related to your parents? That's kind of what I mean. So my son Joshua, all of you probably know, has so many aunties and uncles in Ithaca. Many of them are on this call. And for this, I am grateful. There is something special about walking into a room and seeing someone who looks like you, and it's almost an immediate connection. And again, this is my own experience. I would not have changed my upbringing and childhood for anything. How many of you remember what the house smelled like when grandma started warming up those hot coals on the stove? How many had to go out to the backyard to pick out your own switch? Right, that part. Who remembers what the house smelled like when you were going to eat chitlins? Now, everybody didn't eat chitlins, but we didn't in my house, but we did eat chicken feet. So how many of y'all remember that? And who remembers that cheese slicer for the government cheese, right? Or wearing your neighbor's kids' hand-me-downs, or church on Sunday mornings and Sunday nights and Wednesdays and Thursdays too, you know? So I really want today to be a learning experience. Let me stop share. So I can see everybody's faces. So I want today to be a learning experience and an open discussion about the Black family. I have a treat for you today. So 4 incredible speakers who I love, 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 and have a wonderful and fantastic relationship with each and every one of them that's dear to my heart. When you think about nourishing the Black community, in this community, 2 community centers generally come to mind. Not generally, but 2 community centers come to mind. They are not interchangeable. One cannot be used in place of the other. They are not the same. 2 very separate missions with a common goal. Southside Community Center and Greater Ithaca Activity Center. Siobhan Bunch and Dr. Leslie McBean Claiborne is going to talk to us about Black family unity and heritage. They'll discuss the challenges and triumphs of Black families today. And my hope is that they will also talk about the history a little bit of their centers and how they support Black families. We're also joined by Harmony Malone, who has deep roots in this community, so much so that her family history is an exhibit at the Johnson Museum at Cornell, which is super cool. We're also joined by Ira McKinley. He's a storyteller and cinematographer. They'll both talk about their family ties, and Ira will share a little bit about his film that we'll go into a little later. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Siobhan. Siobhan, take it away.
Hey, sister. I thanks for inviting me. This is wonderful. And like you, I had no idea that Black families had a month, right? Like I had no clue. So now that I know, July is all about it's all about Black Families Month and just being my family just lost their matriarch on Juneteenth. So for me, it's a little bit, it's still a little bit surreal or unreal, or, my grandmother was like my second mother. I'm the eldest grandchild, the eldest niece. And so it's been a time, but her passing on Juneteenth for me was also like, hey, she went in, like the ancestors were already, joyous and partying and celebrating. And then here my grandmother comes into that party and welcomed, I know, by my grandfather and everyone that went before her. So yeah, sitting in her funeral, I was kind of starting to tell this story before we logged in or we went live. Sitting in her funeral, I was thinking, what am I going to say on Tuesday? What do I talk about? Here I am, and my family is grieving, but also we came together, right? My grandmother is from the Georgia. Both of my grandparents are from Georgia, and lived through the civil rights. And my grandfather was the very first person diagnosed with polio in Georgia, which is how it started his academic career. He was spent a lot of time in the hospital alone and away from his family, reading, which is how he got to Cornell, and then my family coming here to Ithaca, born and raised. And in my grandmother coming up and being a teacher, um, and my grandfather, like I said, being alone, without his community, without his family, bringing my grandmother here without community, without family to Ithaca. Their students and the few folk in Ithaca that they knew from church, or there were my grandmother found a group of women and they created Club Essence. And so that started our family, extended family, our community here in Ithaca. And through my grandparents, we were all taught that, family doesn't mean blood, right? It's not just blood. Just like, Gloria said, her son has a bunch of aunties. I'm Auntie Bunchy to him. And I grew up the same way. And seeing my kids grow up with the same aunties, and it just warms my heart, right? It gives me a sense of community, which is where my grandparents went in teaching us that, you know y- who you are shows everywhere you go, right? So my grandfather came to Cornell, my grandmother worked at the IRL library, and they started inviting students. So growing up, I used to see people at Christmas and Thanksgiving, and I'm like, who is that? And they're like, oh, it's your grandpa's student. And I'm like, student, why? Oh, well, because they live in Africa. And I'm like, Africa, what? Like, oh, so they're not going home for this little 3-week break, and they don't have community, they don't have family. So we welcome them into to ours, and we just became one huge extended um, family, one big family. And so I've carried on my family. I have a husband and 2 kids, and um, I instill the same sense of community. My kids, they're at Southside, and they're uh, see their aunties and uncles daily, and I as the director there, I try to, instill the same values of community and family in my staff and in the kids. So our kids eat family style dinner every day in their groups. They learn how to, can you pass the potatoes? Can you pass the, the peas, or, whatever it is, and just have conversation, and wind down from the day like a normal family does. You get home from school and you play, but then you get around the table and you eat and you fellowship, and that's what I like to see when I'm at the center. You're welcome. I'm going to extend this, invitation to all of you on here. 5 o'clock is dinner. Come by, you grab a plate, sit down, fellowship. That's what we do. Southside's mission is to affirm and foster and develop self-pride among Black Ithacans. And I think we do a good job of that. And in that, family is key. We don't we we don't turn, well, I shouldn't say we don't. We try not to turn folks away, because we find that when you bring them in, when you bring people into the fold, right, then you're teaching them and their generations that it is okay to be one big community family. And yeah, so our coming in, you may hear the kids, may get a little aggressive. It's not aggressive. They're like siblings, right? The kids are in there and they're going back and forth, and they're siblings, and they're running to, big brother Javon, and it's wonderful. And I wouldn't have it any other way. We try to teach our kids that, family first. Family is everything. And in 2024, for me, looking at the schools, at the world, the news, we're getting away from respecting our elders and being one, and we need to get back to that. And I feel like that's sort of the problem nowadays, right? There is not that go pick your own switch. There is not that everyone come together Sunday dinner, at grandma's house, and playing cousins sleeping over. There's not a lot of that anymore. And I miss it, right? My kids, they have their aunties, they go, but it's not the same as it used to be. And for me, I would love to get back to that. And yeah, that's where I am.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Siobhan. I know that it's been a challenge, but you are here. You lost your matriarch. You are post-surgery, yet you are still here talking with us. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Dr. Leslyn McBean Claiborne of GIAC, please share with us.
Thank you so very much. And everyone, I apologize. I'm getting over a bad case of bronchitis and laryngitis, so I hope that you can hear me. If you need me to repeat anything, please just wave at me, whatever it is. I'll do my best. Thanks, Siobhan. I could say just ditto everything that Siobhan said. I bring a perspective of being someone coming from the other end of the diaspora, the Caribbean region, as a Black woman, as a Black person who grew up with a majority Black population. Guyana, from which I hail, British Guyana, there's several Guyanas, the British one, has a large Black and Indian population. So pretty much it's all I know. I'm the last of 11 siblings, there are 11 of us, and each of my siblings had 15 or so friends who all lived at our house. So that's what I know, Siobhan. It's like, who is this? Who cares? They're all there. And my older uh, siblings, my older brothers and sisters, goodness knows that every Saturday the music started, people showed up, and it was a party. That's how it always worked. People helped out, did whatever was needed, and we just had that infinite, unconditional, non-judgmental, whatever the word is, love. For me, when I think of the Black family and I think of our deep-rooted history, I think of that word. There is nothing that speaks about what the true meaning of love is than to look at the endurance of Black families, our resilience, what we've endured, and how we know how to turn a potato into a 5-course meal like nobody's tomorrow, because we want everybody to eat. We want to make sure everybody is fed in any way that you can think of, whether it is spiritually, physically, that nurturing, that love, we find a way to make it come to life. And that's why we do what we do. Even when we were getting the switch, what they said, it's because I love you that I'm doing this. And I don't know about love, that kind of love, but at some point you understand. I grew up understanding the value of family. I grew up understanding that even when you didn't have anything, I'll give you a quick sidebar. I went to Tuesday Farmers Market out here, DeWitt Park, and I did a double take because I saw a vendor was selling curried eggs. So I did a double take. I said, curried eggs? That's interesting. I remember growing up how that was the poor people food for me. There's always rice. And you waited to hear that hen cackle. You ran to that chicken coop, grab an egg, whether it was yours or the neighbors or whoever, it was okay. And you made some curry sauce with that egg and you were golden. That was it. And then I come out here and I'm seeing it being sold for $15. And I thought, wow, I had to take a picture and send it to my family just for them to see that what we grew up with is out here, somebody's wonderful entrepreneurship. But that's what I know. I know that if we want to make change, and I'm going to transition into what we do at GIAC, if we want to make change as any organization, we want to start thinking about our programs, about what we do and how we do from the point of view, the standpoint, the line of sight of, I hate to use these words, but as I said, the lowest common denominator in our community. When we think of who's most marginalized, when we think of who's most oppressed, we come to that place of history to now, of the challenges that Black people, Black families face. So when we want to design programs, let's start thinking of designing our programs from that level up. Our programs, to create the level of equity we're talking about and that we need, we have to do those things. We can no longer design programs that are for the majority and then try to adapt them to fit the people most in need. We have to design programs for the people most in need with the resources, and those programs will serve everyone. That's how we approach the work we do at GIAC. Why is it that a young person who has a full ride to transfer to a different school, to get a full ride to a 4-year school, can't take advantage of that because they owe $5,000 to the school they're in now? And if they don't pay that, they can't get their transcripts and whatever to take advantage of this full ride. This is one of the things that so many face, let alone think of that Black student. Those are the kinds of things that occur to us every day at GIAC that make us move in the direction of these emerging programs that we do. When we started our feeding program, 50 Serve is what we call it, is because we had Black children standing in our office, one Black child saying, "I'm hungry." It was around 4:15 in the afternoon, the end of camp. And our former director, Marcia, and I ran into her office, got her a little cereal bar to give to her. She looked at us and said, "I want real food." After we got over our little insult, because that was real food to us. We thought there's got to be something behind this. And we realized there was. Now, what she was able to gather up from lunch, leftover lunch, to take home for her siblings for dinner, there was none left that day. And for us, it meant this is a problem, even if it's for one child. This was a little Black young lady who had 3 siblings at home. And so we started our feeding program. Luckily, our cook had sense better than us when we said 50 Serve, the first 50 people who show up to eat will get food. The first day we had over 75 because the children told their mothers, fathers, and the siblings, and they all came. Again, another emerging need just based on us keeping sight, knowing what's going on, and figuring out that we need to do this program for the people who are most vulnerable. And when we did that, we realized that it's not just the Black families, it serves everyone. Those are just some examples. One other thing I want to talk about that we focus real heavily on at GIAC, and I know Southside and others do as well, is on education. 31% before COVID of our Black students were not reading at 3rd grade, not meeting the 3rd grade reading proficiency mark. That is not okay. Post-COVID, we're looking at 42%. So for us, that's a problem. We cannot be a community center, do the things we do, and not focus on that academic achievement, because we're not helping our community any. And so we started a program called Let's Read, responding to that, making sure that our children buddy up. They're getting reading specialists coming into our agency, teaching them to read, and we are measuring where they were and where they end up at the end of our school year program and summer, because we want to make sure that we are doing our part to make sure that we're meeting that need and we're not contributing to this school to prison pipeline. Because of that 31% at that time, about 23%, about 21% drop out of school, high school, and about 23% on any given day of Black young men who dropped out of high school are in jail, prison, some juvenile justice or correction system. We cannot just be silent and let those things happen. So I urge everyone, these are just examples of some of what we do at GIAC. We began at GIAC in 1972 because we were responding to the need for our families in this community. We were surrounded by Ithaca Housing Authority, by public housing, primarily housing Black and brown people, and some of our mental health housing units as well in the downtown Ithaca area, and they had no place to go outside of the south side, on the north side, after the Y was gone and the north side house closed. And we continue to do the same thing we have been doing for years. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Leslin. We both, Siobhan and Ms. Leslin, we thank you for your leadership, for all you've done for the centers, what you do for the families. We honor you and we thank you both so much for your commitment and your dedication to the community. Thank you so much. So we're gonna shift a little bit we're gonna go to Miss Harmony Malone, who everybody just knows as Miss Harmony. She and her family are cornerstones in this community. I don't know if some of you know or not, but Miss Harmony has a whole mural of her. And it's at Cass Park, right? Or it's on the walkway in Cass Park. So if you're ever on that trail, if you look around, you'll see Harmony's mural underneath the bridge. So Harmony, if you could share with us your family ties, family history in the community, kind of what brought you here, and a little bit of those things.
Hello, aloha, everyone. It is so wonderful to see all your beautiful faces. Apologize for a delay. I was doing what my family does best, and I was serving community, so I was busy. But I'm just so happy to see you all. I'm elated to be back in Ithaca, New York. For those of you who do not know me or much about what's happened in the past 2 years, my name is Harmony Malone. I am technically, I guess, an Ithaca legacy. And 2 years ago, I transitioned to Hawaii. I live in Kailua Kona now, and I transitioned there via the Teach for America program. And I just graduated with my master's in educational leadership, as well as from the AmeriCorps program through Teach for America. So God has been good. And I'm back this summer, as always, just to give you guys a little taste of what I've learned. And just come spend some time pouring back into the community that has supported me and held me down all my life. A little bit about me before I talk about the wonderful man that is my great-grandfather. I was born in Buffalo, New York, and we transitioned here shortly after I was born. My mother and my father, Tanisha and Marcus Malone, they brought me from Buffalo here to Ithaca, and I grew up here to get connected to my family. And so grew up in all of Ithaca. I went to Cayuga Heights. I went to Ithaca, Boynton Middle School, Ithaca High School, and then Ithaca College. And then, as I just shared, graduated from Chaminade University in Honolulu in Hawaii. So I have served at both community centers, so it's so wonderful to see all my friends' faces and to be able to give back. I'm currently sitting in Southside Community Center, so that brings me a lot of joy. I served here as an after-school program director for a season in time, and I have been a part of the wonderful, amazing community unity music education program known as COMEP for I think this is my 17th, 18th year. So if you have seen me, you know that Miss Harmony came from COMEP. The title Miss Harmony came from COMEP. And then I transitioned over to the Greater Ithaca Activity Center, and I was able to serve in various roles as the K through first leader at one point, then up to second through fifth with the STEAM program, and then the high school program. So and then part of my Brother's Keeper initiative and the Let's Read program that Miss Leslin was talking about. And so it's just an honor to be able to have served in all those capacities. As I stated before, I'm the great granddaughter of the wonderful Bishop Cecil A. Malone. And it has been 44 years since that wonderful man passed. And every year I am so excited to learn more and more about him. The first time I really learned about my grandfather, I think I was actually about 12. Actually, I might have been a little bit older, maybe 14 or 15. And what happened was we had a project in church, and the church that he built by hand that I did not even realize belonged to my great grandfather. Shame. And what we did was he had 2 books in the Ithaca Tompkins Library. And so I took that book and I just read about the history of my grandfather and got to see all these beautiful pictures of this amazing man who served our country, who built this church by hand, who served community, who was called upon for everything at any time. And so as I was learning, I ended up writing a really beautiful poem about him just because I was so inspired. But he served our Ithaca community. My family comes from both Arizona and Tennessee and all over. And my grandfather was known for bringing a bunch of saints, a bunch of beautiful Black people from the South up here to Ithaca, New York to be a part of the church, but also he helped get them into Cornell University to be able to invest in the future and the education for their children. He brought about, I actually just talked to one of the members that he brought up. It was he brought about, I believe she said about 25, 26 people up from the South. And then they were able to get into Cornell University. They were able to establish jobs, be in relationship, and join this community and participate in elevating it all together. My grandfather was a man that judges would call on, the police would call on to ask for help and aid and counseling and loving our Black men, our Black women. My grandmother, Ruby Lee, she was amazing. And I actually remembered her in my youth, and I would sit up underneath her every time we had church service, just because she was the candy lady, but also because she was full of love and she knew how to correct you in kindness and with a firm tone. And I loved that about her. And they also at one point in time had a farm. They would feed, right? Sustainability and just like teaching. They were so invested in our people and so invested in making sure that we had what we need, right? We needed water, food, all the resources, like access. And they just cared so deeply for the community. And so he founded his church, the Bethlehem Church of Jesus Christ, in 1862. And it's on Cecil A. Malone Drive. So if you guys know where Wegmans is, in 2000, it was renamed the Cecil A. Malone Drive. And so he built that church by hand. And as I said before, at one point in time, the church had burned down. And I'm not actually quite sure how it burned, but it ended up being rebuilt. And I love that it took hands, right? Many hands make light work. And also what it took was relationship, right? Relationships are the heart of all learning. And that is what my grandfather really taught and lived and harped on. He was a man of faith, but he was a man for the community that really saw you for who you were. No matter where you were, no matter what you were in, he believed in you, and he believed that you were able to do better and more and to grow to better and more. And so at some point in time, and I am not the family historian, we do have one though. There's just so much history in our family. So if you see me look down, it's because I had to go and talk to the historian to come back. But at one point in time, my grandfather created the Special Person Learning Lab program, which was to help Black and Brown folks with reading and literacy and comprehension, because he was just that invested in the program. And he was really invested in like teaching teachers. And so even though he passed 44 years ago, those those values are still instilled in his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, and it continues to be passed down as a legacy of love. And that's what we've titled his legacy is a legacy of love. And so I find it a great honor that I come from this beautiful line, and also that I've continued it in my own unique way. With my dancing, with my traveling, right? Most people know Miss Harmony as a dancer, or children famous, or kid famous, as we like to say. And it's really powerful to me that even though I've been gone from our community for 2 years, yesterday was the first day of camp, and all of my kids, even the first babies that I ever had, I started working at 14. And even though I'm young, I know, friends, I know that I'm young, but I feel seasoned in my bones, all right? So please don't come for me, all right? It's been at least 17 years I've been working. So to me, I've seen kids graduate college. I've seen kids start their own families. I have kids who are now working with me to pour back into our students, to love on our students. And so Mama Leslin elevated it, that like the need for reading and comprehension is so great, so dire. And yes, COVID did happen, and it does have a part or a contributing factor to it, but there's still so much work that needs to be done. There's so much more programming that needs to be created so that we can create opportunities for our people and for all of our loved ones and for everyone around us, so that we can just continue to elevate. But I am so honored again to be with you all. I'm so honored to have come from this legacy of love. And my heart, my message to you all is to continue to invest in relationships, because relationships truly are the heart of all learning, and they help us to grow and be powerful. So thank you so much, family. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Harmony. Thank you so much for those words. And anyone that knows you knows that you have a pure heart, a heart of gold, and you embody everything that your grandfather has done through your work, through your dance, and everything that you've done. And like you, I am also connected to GIAC and to Southside. You won't meet very many community advocates that are not connected to both GIAC and to Southside. You really won't. But we'll transition to Ira McKinley. Thank you for joining us. Ira is a cinematographer, historian, and lots of other things. But first, before he tells you a little bit about him and his project, I'm going to show you a short clip of his work and the work that he's doing. If you could just bear with me for a second while I try not to mess this up, and I'm going to try to share my screen, and I'm going to try to do this right. Just 1 second. Can everyone hear? You can't hear? No one can hear. Can't hear.
You probably should have had it loaded before you started it. I know that's kind of hard to do, but once you do that, because it's trying to catch up, the clip. So you might want to restart it.
Hold on, let's see. If we refresh. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Still no.
No. What you want to do, but you know what you can do, Gloria? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, so what you want to do, just pause it at the start, let it load, and then we can come back to it. But I'll talk while they're doing that, and I introduce myself. My name is Ira McKinley. I'm a filmmaker. I say I'm a filmmaker and activist. And I was born here in Ithaca, New York, back in the mid '60s. So I've seen the changes of Ithaca, and my family came up. One of the families that came up here through the South, and we came up here from Florida, and we came up through the migrant workers camps, and just like a lot of other families, but my family spread it here, Auburn, and Rochester is where my family is located. We're the only family that really migrated here, and we did that because we knew of the job situation. So my family came in here during the time when the affirmative action and all that was going on. I can remember when they took over Willard Straight back in the 1969. I can remember like busing. I remember when West Village was first built because we were going to Central, which is now called Beverly J. Martin, and they bused us all up to West Hill School. And my first time being called by my majority of white students, I was like one of the only black students in the class, and that kind of felt really uncomfortable for me. I remember I started crying, and they had to put me in the class with my sister because I didn't want to be in that class because I felt so uncomfortable. But I felt my first racism there when somebody called me a walking chocolate bar. And being from Central, I knew how to fight because we used to get in fights every day. So when they did that, these kids was older than me. I knew that was fighting words, and I really, really, really learned about the difference here. Even though Ithaca and the surrounding areas is what I'm talking about is progressive, you still have racism in these areas. So there's a lot of things I remember. I remember when we first came here, we did go to Cecil Malone's church, and as kids, they disciplined you in that church, and we was like, okay, Ma, we want to go there, and that's when we had our first thing about getting our own switch. I remember going to Sunday school there, and then we as kids we didn't like being disciplined like that outside, so they switched us to Calvary Baptist Church. But in the South, there was always about education because my father only had a third grade education. My mother graduated, but my father didn't, and to me it was a more sense of community growing up in the '60s and '70s, and then what I'm seeing right now. I feel like when you hear about the Project 2025 or the 2025 project, it's something that I was seeing happening 25 years ago. And me just, I had a great education here. And after I came here, I went into the Air Force. But then when I came back in the '80s, in the late '80s, I couldn't find a job and they wouldn't hire me. And I'm like, okay, why did I serve my country and I come back and I can't get a job anywhere? So that led to me doing negative things because, you had to survive. And so what ended up happening, you lived that life, and we were DJing and we were like selling drugs and doing whatever just to survive because we couldn't get into the organizations that we wanted to. And so that just led me just being more of what I am to now as an independent film, doing independent stuff. I'm gonna tell you the truth, last job I had, and I'm a warehouse worker, and I know how to do forklifts and all these other stuff. But the last job I had was in 2007. And that's been almost 20 years that I worked, for a company and for any length of time. So after doing that, coming out, I went to prison. When I was in prison, this is what The Throwaways is about. My first film is about mass incarceration and police brutality. And my father was shot and killed by a cop when I was 14. 10 years later, I was beat up here in Ithaca by a policeman. And so that really, sent me on my way. So after that, I left here. I got chased out of Ithaca. I went to Albany, New York, and it continued until I got arrested and went to prison. And when I was in prison from 1998 to 2002. And I was there in New York City in Staten Island. That's where I was in prison. And I was there when the World Trade Center went down. So then to come out and then go through years of homelessness, you know, I got kind of tired of it. And during the winter of 2008, after I finished working the job and became homeless again, I started learning how to film and edit. And I joined in Northampton, Mass, community television. I learned how to film and edit and became producer of the year. And after that, I started on this documentary and just happened to call Michelle Alexander at Ohio. She was an Ohio State professor, and she had just written the book, The New Jim Crow. And I told her what I was doing, and she jumped on board. And from that, we just started hooking up with a lot of other people like Cornel West, Angela Davis, and a lot of these greats were in my first film. But at the same time, you had Michael Brown happening. You had what's the guy, Garner, Eric Garner, and all these other things. So I could relate to that because of what happened to me like 10 years earlier and what happened to my father like 15, 20 years earlier than that. So I was like, well, this stuff was always going on. So let me make a film about it. The film was a big hit, and we did it independently. And we went all over the country with it. And so that led me into the next film, which was It's Just Out of the Muck, which is about community and family, but also relates to how my family had came here from Florida and how it relates, because where my family come from is the same place where Zora Neale Hurston wrote Their Eyes Are Watching God. So where the hurricane happened in the book is where my family is from. And so what I tried to show is that these places, like, it's in Palm Beach County in Florida. And on the eastern side, you have Trump and all the people with the yachts and all that. And it's the richest, richest part of Florida. And then 40 miles to the west, you have the poorest people in the county, which have to deal with the sugar. And so we were showing how they were doing it. And my family came up here as migrant workers. And I showed that there's a film called A Harvest of Shame, which you can still see by Edward R. Murrow. And it showed how the migrant workers came up. And we went from state to state picking in the fields. And that's how my family came here. But in 1929, there was a hurricane that killed 4,000 Black African Americans. And Zora Neale Hill wrote it in their book. And parts of the book is, even though it's based on a not true story, parts of it's true about things that happened, like people having to go pick up people and put them in mass graves. And so that film that I got, which is still on PBS, Independent Lens, which it premiered 2 years ago for Black History Month, it just shows that family and how family was very important in the community. You can still watch it on the PBS app, and I'm interested in doing a screening of both films to the people in Ithaca to introduce to them of the film of what I'm doing now, which is called A Tale of Two Journeys, which is the exodus of African Americans from the South to Central and Western New York. So the cities that I'm focusing on this film that I'm doing right now is Ithaca, which I already filmed. We filmed the Cornell University at St. James Church, digging for artifacts from, as far as they could dig, and they're going down deeper. The deeper they go, the more things they're finding in the dirt over there. So that was interesting. I also had filmed at the Harriet Tubman House just this Juneteenth. And then we did another piece at St. James where community members came back who are like my age, that was born in the 60s and 50s, to tell how it used to be here in Ithaca and how many Black businesses there used to be and all these things that was going on and how families were like together. And I can remember. And we also showed a piece that they did at Southside 20 years ago with some of the members that are no longer here. So that was very interesting. I still have to shoot in Rochester with Frederick Douglass's great-great-grandson, and at the George Eastman House, which is Kodak, And he has all the art archives of Harriet Tubman, Mark Twain, and all the people from back in the time, that was there, Frederick Douglass. So I still have that film shoot to do on this developmental film that I'm making, which is a 15 to 20-minute short, which I should be done with by the end of this summer. It's just working on the pieces of getting the funding and all this other stuff, because I'm independent. You know what I'm saying? I have to depend on grants, and I'm still waiting on an art council grant, and it's not on them, it's something that's going on with the New York grant funding system. I was approved of it in March. Community Foundation gave me a grant also, to get me started on this project. And it's just, raising money, because to me it's important to document these stories of how we came here and what you guys are talking about now. You know what I'm saying? And it's all connection. I mean, I remember going to GIAC. I remember going to Southside and working at Southside. I remember when Art Watkins was there at Southside. I remember when Audrey Cooper was leading Southside. I remember when Fee Nunn was doing the Southside. Me, Fee Nunn, he was playing basketball with me. We started the GIAC Summer Basketball League. We were like the champions the first 4 years of that, playing basketball in the area. And that was way before it was in the back. It's not where it's at now. They used to play in the back. And I remember all the community getting together every Tuesdays and Thursdays and watching us play. And, it's just something that goes back into what the community used to be like. And this is what I need to document this, because what I'm seeing, and there's another thing about education, and you might have seen me say that at the Southside. Yes, I also filmed at the Southside Business thing they have for Juneteenth too, because I think it's important. So I'm teaming up with a group they called the Center for New Leadership, and they're out of Brooklyn, New York, who has bought a plot of land here in Enfield, 20 acres, and they're developing it for a community. They're developing to have trades there and housing. And an important thing, they want to have people in prison and Elmira and Auburn. They want it to be a hub for people to be able to stay cheaply and have transportation to see their loved ones, because community is important. I would grow up when we had a mother and father in the household, and that's something I see that's being taken away. I can see what's being taken away with these bans of books, because that's the first thing I had to learn how to do, because I'm the youngest out of 13, and trying to get to the TV and watch what I wanted to watch, it wasn't it. So this is how I developed a great imagination, by reading books. I used to go to the library, get me a couple books and read it, and just go off by myself, because I couldn't wait to learn to read, because everybody else was in school and I wasn't. And so this is why this community and family is very important, because I feel like this is something that we're losing. I think this is a planned thing. They don't even teach cursive in school anymore. How are you going to learn how to sign your name if you can't write in cursive? You know what I'm saying? So this is something that we have to teach our kids, and another thing I think is important is to get these African-American men involved. You know what I'm saying? Not to feel like I might have mentioned that. I think I mentioned that at Southside Community Center, but I see a lot of them are lost and disinterested and saying that, well, that doesn't include me. And, asking and thinking that they they're not included, so they stay out of it. And I want to get them more involved. I'm just not asking them thinking that something's just going to be owed to them. They have to work for it. You know what I'm saying? Everything I've learned, I had to work for. So, especially when you realize that, people look at you and look at your skin color and look at you. And then, when you're homeless, you already, because you don't have the resources to do certain things. So for me, it's important for me to be independent too. So I had to learn how to develop some different skills, a different skill set than when I was taught in the Air Force. And I think it's something that everybody needs to learn. I think we need to learn how to grow our own food, though. We can start doing this. I mean, that's something that we did, when I was younger. We was into growing food and stuff like that. I came up here learning how to grow food. I went back to learn how to grow food. So this is very important to me. And I know because of what they were serving to me when I was homeless helped me develop diabetes. And I was on insulin and all that. I'm not on that no more because I'm eating healthy. I know how to eat. You know what I'm saying? I'm not subject to eating poor stuff. So I know we're running out of time. We can't see now. Hopefully, Gloria could put
I
up
j-
the link.
Yes, I
But
did. I wanted to, just for anyone who in the interest of time needs to jump off, thank you so much for
yes,
joining us. It's okay if you
as
just
a
jump off. But I did post the links to your 2 film
yes.
trailers in the chat, and then I'm also going to post your website. And if anyone wants access to the full film, you can email me. And then I can give you access to the full film. I'm gonna put my,
You know that film still costs money. I'm not giving access to the film. That's part
okay,
of
or
it.
not,
That's why.
or
That's
not.
why I was. This is why I'm saying I'm trying to do a screening. You know, I mean, if we can
Gotcha,
do a
okay.
if we can do a screening, I can
So I
show
guess
it, and
I
we
was just special. I'm special because I have the link.
yeah, I only
Got
gave
it.
it to you private, and don't share it because it's on the PBS app, and I would get in trouble for that. So, but I can screen
Got
it and create money and interest, and hopefully we get work on that. And one more thing I want to do is invite everybody. My family's having a Women's Day barbecue in Auburn, New York, on July 27th. It's free. It's right there by where Booker T. Washington Community Center. I know you guys know where that is on Chapman Ave. My family has family there. It's a big event. We are playing spades tournament. We have basketball. We have all these fun things to do. And I'm inviting everybody to come to that event. July 27th. I say come in the afternoon because it's hot during July. So usually we don't, it doesn't take off till like 4 or 5 when it starts
Perfect.
cooling down. But they have events the whole day. But it's
Perfect.
free and the food, and they're having side dishes. You like Southern food, I take you to come to that.
Everybody's welcome. Okay.
Everybody's welcome.
All right. So, well, we got to hear from the pillars, the community centers that support and uplift our Black families. We learned about one of the most well-known Black families in Ithaca, and we also got to hear from Ira about the migration of his family, and through film. So we want to thank you for joining us today. We realize that your time is valuable and we don't take that for granted. So let's celebrate the Black family with pride, joy, and deep sense of gratitude for all that it represents. And again, we thank you all so much for being here. We are so sorry that we went a little bit over, but enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to engaging with you again. George, do you want to bow us out?
Thank you. Let's keep this conversation going. This is an ongoing conversation that we should all be engaged in, and we welcome opportunities for the Community Foundation to support this important work. And I'm just so full of gratitude and awe from being able to learn and hear from your conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our speakers again, Dr. Leslie and Siobhan, Harmony, Ira. I love you all. You all know that.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Take
God
good care,
bless.
everyone. Take care.
Take care.